We are back with regular episodes. I was on a little bit of a hiatus over the past couple weeks. Work life got a little crazy. Was doing some stuff outside of work that just took away some of my time. So if you are a listener here, thank you for uh, continuing to listen. Thank you. Welcome back to everyone listening here. So on today's episode, I don't know. It's kind of a not necessarily a brainstorming session here, but it's something that I noticed that I want to flesh out the concept a little bit. It was a set. So Tops put out which I think this is actually a very cool insert. So it was a Paul Skeens insert where there was, I don't know, I forget if the first one was numbered. I think it was because it said one in like 1,000 or so packs, and it was a cut insert that looked like a K. That was a Paul Skeens, but then they had a reverse K insert, which was one out of, and it was more rare. I think it was either a numbered. I think it was like maybe it was numbered to 99, or maybe it wasn't numbered, and then the other one was probably numbered if it was more rare. And I think kind of the concept that in this era, if you are trying to find cards that I feel like maybe have value that are not just like regular base cards, I don't know. There's something about inserts that have always been super interesting to me because they are, in theory, some of the inserts are going to be more rare, probably, than some of the regular base cards. Now, I think that there's probably a decent shot that you won't be able to find as many people who are looking for that specific card. Your listing will pop up on eBay as people look, whether it's Prism inserts, because that was the one that I really looked at for a while, and I was like, I feel like there's something here with the Prism insert. This was like way back. I mean, honestly, I think I was comparing it to some of the inserts from the 90s, which is sort of why I think this concept is interesting to me. That we I feel like we are in an era where the companies are trying to create new inserts that can rival like the PMGs and tons of the inserts from the 90s that, like, if you look and the thing is, like, if you look at a lot of like high end, like expensive cards from the 90s, a decent amount of them are going to be inserts. Like, the base cards end up not being the cards that people want the most. They're the easiest to get, which makes them the cheapest. But the inserts are really the ones, which I think, Panini has done with their downtowns and the uptowns. I think that I don't know. I don't want to say that they have overdone the concept of inserts, but I think that, I don't know. I could sit here and say that they probably could have stayed with like just doing like three or four different inserts in like optic. I don't know, Donruss maybe, and then maybe Prism. I think we are at a point where you are going to have a lot of options if you are looking for inserts. I think you are looking at, I think you're looking at a low risk, potentially high reward. I think or potentially no reward, but I think it's a low risk. And that's sort of the thing. Like, if you are, like, one of the things that I came up doing in the sports card industry was looking for like undervalued cards in the market, like comparing, for example, like Prism PSA 10s and their prices between players versus select PSA 10s and their prices between players, and taking like a bunch of different, and the I used the 2018 Prism class because that was really where I was doing a lot of this research. So, like, you take a Luca Prism PSA 10 versus a Trey Young Prism PSA 10, and then you look at which select maybe isn't the best because there's the three different options, but I think you understand the point. You take those two players and you compare them to other sports. And you take like, or you compare them to other products. So you take like three, four, five products, however you want to take it, and then you basically find the number of what the price of, what the price of the percentage price, because it's obviously not the same, the Luca versus the Trey Young. And if you can find a card that maybe has a wider margin between them, like, maybe that's a card worth looking into if you can buy a few of them and then either potentially relist them or if down the road those prices end up going up because there is a discrepancy between the two prices. And I think if you're looking for inserts specifically, that might be an interesting concept to do, like taking all of the I don't know, I don't want to say all of the 2018 inserts necessarily, but like taking all the players that have inserts in these products and kind of comparing the pricing of these to the players and seeing sort of where maybe there is a little bit of a discrepancy between one card of a player, one insert versus another. And with PMGs, I think that is like a diamond in the rough type situation as well, where I don't like I think that Panini was making inserts to try and make the next PNG. So I I'm trying to think of how exactly I want to word it. So like Pr- Panini was making cards trying to mimic the concept of the PMG. And I don't think that concept or strategy really works from if you're looking for cards that you can buy and sell and there's going to be some external value from the more rarity. But I think that there is going to be a few, maybe one or two or three different inserts from this era that end up being like the PMGs. And I don't know if they're going to be the downtowns. I think that they could be. I think that could be one of them. I mean, that's the biggest one. And I think unfortunately, we have seen such like a large increase in how many of those cards are on the market and how many of those cards are being sold that I think the downtowns from when they were maybe invented until like 2017, 2018, maybe that's the card to look into. But I think that, especially, this is another reason why I think inserts are very interesting, is because Tops, for example, some of their marketing, and actually a decent amount of their marketing before products come out, is promoting the inserts that are in the product. And maybe it may just be a marketing strategy where they look at it and say, well, we're not just going to promote the regular base insert because it's like that's not flashy, that's not the cards that people are going to be going crazy for. They're going to go, I think that people are going to go crazy for, let's say, like a number to 5 insert for Shohei Ohtani. And I know that's not a rookie also, but I think like if you look at like Jordan PMGs, those aren't rookies either. So I think that if you're looking for, a new thing to look into, it could be inserts. And I think you're going to find a lot of duds, if I'm going to be honest. I think that there are a lot of duds in a lot of these products of just inserts that are not good, or there's maybe too many of them, or it's, the sixth iteration of the concept, when it comes to maybe some of the Panini inserts, whether it's, they did the downtowns and now they're doing the uptowns and now they're doing all of these types of dual downtowns and stuff along those lines. I think that you're going to find that those cards too are just they are gonna look better than maybe some of the base cards coming out of the product in general. So, and this is just my thought process based on seeing what happened in the 90s and really seeing some of the similarities between what the end of the junk wax era and into an era where I don't know. I'm wondering too if you compare eras as well. I wonder where we're at if you were to look at the previous junk wax era in terms of like a timeline, because although I don't like necessarily comparing now to the junk wax era, I do find that it is very similar with how many cards are being produced. And instead of it being like a bunch of different companies that are making cards, it's one or two companies that are just making a bunch of different products. And it's like if you were to imagine if you were to imagine Mosaic was its own company, or Donruss was its own company, which Donruss was its own company before Panini bought it, or Bowman was its own company, or Topps Chrome, which I understand is Topps Chrome. It has the name in it, but I'm just using that as an example. Like back in the day, all those individual products were all made by one company. Now, Topps obviously has in the past done multiple different products within a year, even during that era. But I just think that this is sort of the concepts and the ideas that I'm looking at when I don't know, when I'm looking at cards, when I'm trying to figure out, like, I'm trying to brainstorm and help people learn about the industry. These are some of the things, at least, that I'm thinking about. And, I think that people use like the expression zig when other people zag. I think that's a fine one. I think that is one that I don't think I've coined that whatsoever. That's obviously a saying, but I've heard other people in the sports card industry kind of use that terminology. And I think that is a good, I think that is a good idea, but it is about finding sort of what you like. So, I mean, for me, from a marketing and from a design perspective, these are the things that I like, which is why that's sort of why I like talking about them on the podcast. But for someone like that's listening to the show, maybe it is base inserts, or maybe it is base cards, or maybe it is colored parallels or something else. It's really just about finding sort of the area, or the area of the industry that you like, and diving deep into that specific pillar of the industry to really find value, if hypothetically, if you're trying to buy and sell cards and make money from doing that. So, unfortunately, it looks like, at least for the beginning of this year's WNBA season, we are going to be without, obviously, I think the biggest player in that league, someone who is probably the favorite to win the MVP this year, Caitlin Clark. She has some sort of lower, I believe it was a lower body injury. I think it was either a quad or an oblique, that she is going to be missing some time. And Chris Hoge from House of Jordans, also Card Ladder, they posted that, and this was I feel like this was in reference to her injury, but also just in reference to the thing that we always see with cards is like there's the initial super high increase, and then sort of things fall pretty significantly after the first couple of weeks. And the thing that happened with her PSA 10 Prism card is exactly that. I mean, it dropped 50% from, it looks like this was May 2025 to the end of May 2025. So maybe this may have had something to do with the injury potentially. Uh, maybe this was mm, I'm looking at the chart, and maybe it's supposed to say, oh no, it says March, not May. Yeah, I was mistaken on the chart there. So from March to May, the card has dropped. A PSA 10 has dropped 50%, and I mean, it's still, it's still a card that is sitting around $250. So to say that it dropped 50%, I think that's obviously something that is inevitable with every single sports card product. And I don't think it's something that will ever change, just based on the fact that since I have been making content, that has been what has happened every single time a big product with a new player comes out, is that the card goes up in value significantly right when it comes out, which it's something I will never understand. If I'm going to be completely honest, it's something I'll never understand, because when a product is first coming out, that is hypothetically when the supply should be the highest. Like when the product is like in the breaks, and it's people are buying it at the store, and it's available to buy at the store. That's like when it feels like the cards should be way cheaper, but it turns out that it never is, and it never will be. And it's the same thing with grading. I mean, it's you got to catch lightning in the bottle, really, if you're trying to do that strategy. I mean, I'm sure some people have done it. Like if you buy a box of the product and you get the big card and you send it to PSA right away, you're also running the risk of like you. I think most of the time you're going to be getting some sort of return on what you're buying, like or the grading, the quick grading and turning around and selling. Um, but I think if you're not within the first 5 sales of the card, then you probably are breaking even, at least, for the first like week or so. But eventually, with every single card, as we've seen, it drops in price. And like I said, even Caitlin Clark, who is, I would say, is probably the biggest, in this, just based on the whole everything in sports. Because I mean, I don't know. I'm sure there's probably people who follow specific sports more than I do. I feel like I have a decent grasp on what's going on in each league specifically, or what's going on in each league, not specifically, but individually. And I think Caitlin Clark is still, she is, I think, the biggest draw of any player in sports. If you're comparing them, what's the word I'm looking for? individually. Maybe I don't think that's exactly the word, but if you're comparing the players draw versus maybe the potential for other fans of the sport, I don't think there's anybody really bigger than Caitlin Clark, and that includes men's sports as well. That includes basketball. That includes the NBA. That includes football. That includes baseball. I mean, maybe Otani, I think, could really be the only other player that I think is in that category. Uh, but I think her cards are going to be looked at. I think, if you have heard me talk about WNBA or women's sports in general, I think we are in the 2018 2019 era, I think, of like women's sports cards. I don't know if we're going to get to like the 2020 2021 level. I'm talking about more production necessarily, not really pricing, because I don't know if we'll ever get there in pricing for those sports. But I do think that we are in the era where it's like 20 whatever Caitlin Clark's last year, so 2024 Prism will probably be it will probably be a similarly produced product as 20, I guess it would be 2018 Prism basketball, where 2017 was a decent year. We saw some people get excited, and then we see Luca and we see Trey come into the league, and that really kind of blows the lid off of those sports. And I think that I don't know. I think 2018 is probably going to go down as one of the most influential years of all of sports cards, and maybe of sports just in general. Because if you look back at that year across all the sports, like the rookies, it is probably one of the best rookie classes in the history of rookie classes, and not just in a specific sport. So I think and I think 2024 will probably also be a pretty significant year. I mean, you had Caitlin Clark, you had Victor Wembanyama, you had Connor Bedard. I mean, you had like you had one of the most influential WNBA classes of all time: Angel Reese, Cameron Brink. There was another player that played at UConn. I forget. She's Australian. I forget. I know her name is pronounced a little bit strangely, but I know she got hurt. But she was also a rookie in 2024. So I think we're looking at like 2024 Prism WNBA basketball is going to be looked at very similarly to 2018 Prism basketball for the men. Because 2017 and then maybe 2023, if we're looking at, I think there probably will be one or two rookies that are good from that class. And we're in like the fourth or fifth iteration of Prism, where if you look back at like when Prism was first like invented, I would say I believe it was 2012. So it's a very almost similar timeline. I think that you're looking at those cards, and the production of the cards, because for women's WNBA Prism basketball, 2020 was the first year. So you're looking at the fourth, fifth year of the inception of the product just in general. So it's going to be a very similar timeline, I think. So that being said, I don't know if I would be buying Caitlin Clark cards at $250. I mean, if you can find them for, and this is not what I think that they're worth. This is what I would pay for them, if you're trying to make money. I think that a good buy and hold for her cards, if you can find them at like 150, I think that would be a decent purchase. Like if you can buy a bunch of them, if you can buy 3, 4, 5 at like a show and pay 150 a piece, I think that's a decent purchase for her cards. Because also too, like I said, she's going to be injured. So that was one of the other pieces that was the news from over the weekend, that she's going to be out. So this is going to be one of the times where you maybe can buy some of her cards. And then hopefully if she wins MVP, or the Fever have like a good season. And I don't necessarily know if they're title contenders, I guess. I mean, the league feels very like there's 12 teams in the league, and it feels very insular when it comes to who could win the champion. I feel like most teams in the league, like they could probably win. I wouldn't be surprised if New York wins again. Chicago, I mean, they have a pretty good roster. Again, there's just tons. Dallas, now that they have Paige Beckers, could be a contender there. Again, I think it's not up in the air necessarily, but I feel like any team really does have a chance to win that league. So if you are and I don't know if this is a indicator of anything, but if you've ever heard of NBA Sintel, I believe it's like a parody account on Twitter that like would make up clearly fake stories about the NBA. And they're very, again, Twitter, it's a rat hole. It's, you can pay to be verified, so they're verified, and they tag the people who are like the reporters, and they have started making WNBA content. They started making content about the WNBA, and I don't know if that is like a indicator that the WNBA is on the rise, but like it is. If you followed NBA Sintel, I think some of the things they put out are funny. I think some of them are a little bit like, okay, it's kind of a little cringe, and I think with the WNBA, again, some of the stuff I feel like is a little cringe, but you're tricking people online essentially. That's what your, I don't know, business model is, whatever. But so they're starting to make stuff about the WNBA. So and whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I guess we'll see. But they're going to get more eyes on, I guess maybe they'll get more eyes on the game because people will be seeing some of these things and they'll go and watch it. I mean, maybe this is sort of, I don't know. I try and put these correlations together, and they sometimes come to fruition, sometimes they don't. But I would say 2024 Prism WNBA overall would be probably a good product if you can buy it too and hold it, because again, with WNBA, there just aren't that many products. Like there are more in 2024. We saw a huge increase in how many, but like the amount of product that is made for Prism still is not as high as other sports. And that could lead to an increase in price if they continue to grow in the way that they have. And in they've got a couple stars that are coming into the league, so I don't see why the league wouldn't continue to grow. So I don't know, if you're looking to buy a card or you're looking to buy a product, 2024 WNBA Prism I think is really the one you want to be looking for if you can find it at a decent price, or if you can rip the product and you pull a Caitlin Clark or you pull any of these big rookies and then get them graded. There's also a chance that you could get the cards for cheaper than if you were to buy them on the open market. But those are all options kind of if you're looking to, again, kind of similar to yesterday, get into something new that you haven't seen before. So we've got two pretty big stories, and then one story that's sort of related here. So one I think is good, and one I think is not so good. And I'm going to talk about the one that's not so good first, just so I can get it out of the way. And it is PSA put out a survey to their customers trying to gauge the interest in card cleaning as an option for before cards get graded. And I think that would be I think that would be bad. I don't think that PSA should do that. I think they shouldn't do it from a market perspective. I don't know. Well, no, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm trying to figure out exactly how I want to word it. I don't think that they should do it. I think that customers that want PSA 10s would probably want this to happen, I would imagine. I mean, if you are a customer, you want all of your, it's the double-edged sword of grading. It's like you want all your cards to come back a PSA 10 when you get them graded, but the only reason that you want them to be graded is because they're valuable as a PSA 10, but the only reason they're valuable as a PSA 10 is because of the number of them that there are. So it's very like one thing is going to lead to another. So if you're going to be offering card cleaning services, I don't know. It doesn't seem like a very good idea to me. Like it seems like they are just trying to get. I don't know. I don't know what they're trying to do. It just doesn't really. The idea, the concept doesn't really make sense to me. I guess they have been trying to make grading easier and make it easier to get PSA 10s and not changing really their grading standards and not really doing any of this type of stuff. So I guess. And I don't know. It's maybe the concept of how many there's only so many cards that can be graded. And every month it seems like PSA is increasing the volume of how many cards they're doing. So I don't know. I'm hoping that they don't do something like this. I think it would probably be a bad idea to do cleaning because it's just, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like a good idea to me. And I mean, the other thing with PSA too is the thing last week that really kind of got under my skin a little bit was PSA is doing some backyard breaks collaboration. Um, I don't know who okayed that, but that is idiotic if I'm to put it lightly. I mean, it is. I couldn't when I saw the post. I was like, this is spineless. I don't know. There's just too many adjectives and words, really verbs. I don't know. Too many words, maybe not verbs, adjectives to describe this, like, and how bad I think it is. If I'm going to be honest, like, I don't like these guys. If you know, let's like, I want to give people the benefit of the doubt, but it's like, how many times can someone be given the benefit of the doubt before it's like, okay, maybe they shouldn't be doing business with like one of the more important companies in the industry. I don't know. But spineless is really one of the ways I would describe it. I mean, it's clear that money. I don't know. I'm not sure if someone's different is making the decisions because for like a couple of years, I was sitting there like, oh, PSA, they're making a lot of good decisions, and two decisions in the past 2 weeks that really seem like I don't know who they're coming from or who is making these decisions. Really not good ones. But a decision that I think is good is going to be Upper Deck is going to be creating what seems like a database with the Cup rookies. The other interesting thing is that they're coming out with 2023-24, so it's Connor Bedard's rookie year for the Cup. The 2025 season's almost over. I mean, and I know that Upper Deck specifically had issues with the card production of the Cup, because there was like a huge one of the factories that they used to glue the cards together. Apparently, there was like a fire a couple years ago, and that was causing a bunch of huge issues with. I don't know if there was bigger. I don't know if there were the same issues with Panini and Topps, but I know with Upper Deck, like there were a lot of old hockey cards that are coming out like years past when they should have been coming out. Like I think it might even have been last year or the year before. They were coming out with like cards from 2021. But what they're doing essentially is they are debuting the Cup rookie patch autographs. They're going to have QR codes. They're going to be coming in cases. And there's going to be a database, and essentially it's to combat rookie patch auto fraud, which I think is good. I do wonder. There's a lot of details here that I think we're still waiting on. Like Suze wrote a good article I think she works for Yahoo Sports. She wrote a good article kind of breaking some of the stuff down, and I wonder a couple things. Like are they going to? And actually, this. Sorry, I know I'm kind of all over the place a little bit here. This could be the reason why this product has been it's been so long for it to come out, is because they're putting all this stuff together, and maybe hopefully after this season they're going to have the Cup will come out hopefully before the start of the next season, like this year's rookies. And maybe this is the reason. Maybe that the reason was that they were coming up with this concept, they were fleshing everything out, they were getting all the cards in the cases, but from all the images that I'm seeing, they're going to be in like PSA cases with they're going to be in PSA cases with a QR code that's going to lead to the card design and the patch that's used on the card. And this is from some of the comments I've seen of people talking about this is not the first time that something like this has happened. There have been other companies that have tried to do something like this. When I was looking into it, I couldn't exactly figure out which company did it, if I'm going to be completely honest. But I think that this is I think it's a good innovation. I hope that I don't know if it's going to be executed correctly right off the bat. But I have talked about some sort of database to track these types of cards for quite some time. Like, just even from like from autos to see which cards have been pulled, and obviously you're not going to be able to track every single card, but I think if you were to put some sort of reward in there, and I'm just sort of brainstorming, thinking out loud a little bit here. If you were to put some sort of reward or like you get credit or something for like scanning the QR code, and then putting in information and saying when it was pulled, how it was pulled, all of this type of information. I think that would be a way that you could probably get this database of cards that are being pulled filled with people who are maybe not using social media, because social media has done a fine job at tracking a lot of bigger cards. Like there was the debut patches, which I haven't seen many of those recently, but the debut patches for the MLB, there was an account that was doing a really great job at tracking all of the polls and having a spreadsheet and all of that kind of stuff. So I think that it would be a good idea for these companies. I think just from a market perspective and from a transparency perspective, it would be good to know what cards have been pulled and what cards are still out there. And I don't even think like the one um thing that I've always seen when people talk about this is like, oh, well, the prices of boxes will go down if people know that the cards have already been pulled. And it's like, isn't that what everybody wants? Like, I don't know. It's is it like, doesn't everybody want the prices of boxes to go down? Like, sure, you can't pull the craziest one of one out of the box, but it's like the decreasing of box prices, isn't that what everybody wants? So I don't know why people wouldn't be more on board with this type of concept to know what cards have been pulled and what cards haven't been pulled. And just so that way collectors are like, if you want that Paul Skeens card, you know that you can't get it anymore. I think again, adding transparency and visibility to these types of things is what's going to legitimize the market more and more. Now, is Upper Deck going to execute on this correctly? Are they going to I guess one other sorry, or are they going to figure out a way that the QR code can potentially still be used if the card is graded? I don't know. I that's sort of the one thing I was a little bit confused about. Like, can you not get the cards graded? Do people not get them graded? I mean, maybe that's something that Upper Deck looked at the grading numbers and said, well, people are not grading these cards, which I don't know. I kind of highly doubt that they wouldn't be grading. People are grading everything nowadays. So the chance that they're not grading one of the biggest cards from a specific set, I don't know. I find it hard to believe, which is obviously something I just sort of made up as an example. But if that's the reason, what are they going to do when people want to get the cards graded? I think that's ultimately one of the bigger questions that I have with this type of thing. Are the QR codes, like, are PSA and Upper Deck working together to make sure the QR codes are still available? Like, are that would make the most amount of sense to me. I mean, putting an extra QR code on the back, because PSA already has their QR code, I believe, which you can search for your cards, which they added a while ago. Adding a secondary QR code to that will show the card and will show the patch that's in there. I also think it will be good for if the cards are being sold online, you'll be able to track down probably people who are doing some of the fraud. You'll be able to catch the people who are changing out the patches much easier because there's going to be a paper trail. Obviously, with cards being sold at shows, maybe that's not going to happen. But it's like, if you have the information of someone, like, the chances that somebody isn't sharing information with other people when they're selling cards isn't very high. So I think ultimately what this is, the point of it is to make sure that they can catch people who are altering patches, and to make sure that when collectors are getting the cards, either from the packs or from a dealer, that they know that the card is the card that they're going to buy and nothing has been altered from a patch or whatever it is when it comes to that specific card.